the world turns.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Locher, and I grew up watching As the World Turns and Guiding Light. I joined the PR department there in 1997 and remained working on both shows for 13 years before they went off the air. As I was stuck home in quarantine, I realized that I was missing my Oakdale family and thought some of you might be feeling the same way. Today, we've got a great couple from As the World Turns, one of our favorites, Duncan and Shannon O'Hara. Please welcome Maggie Reed and Michael Swan, everybody. Maggie, Michael.
Hello.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you for having us. You know what, Ellen, I just wanted to say, I think it's really wonderful that you've taken your creativity and your passion for our shows and know how much the shows have touched people, and you know that you're so generous in starting this whole video series. I think it's really, really great.
Thanks, I appreciate it. You know, I think it's helped a lot of people. I mean, Think about it. You know, we're all in the same boat. You know, whether you're an actor, somebody who worked on the show, a fan of the show, we've all been home for the last 3 months quarantined. So
yeah.
You know.
So
anyway,
give yourself a pat on the back for doing that. You know, it's been a big change in everyone's lives, and just want to acknowledge that.
Thanks. So when was the last time you two saw each other?
I came to New York, I think it was 17 or 18 years ago, and saw Maggie doing a play in Central Park where the characters moved, each scene moved from one part of the park to another part of the park.
Yeah, and it was wonderful that you saw that. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
well, wait,
it was. And then she
explain
drove me
that.
and dropped me at
It was.
house on South.
Oh, sorry. What'd you say, Michael?
I just said that then you give me a ride back to my buddy's house on Central Park South.
That's right. It was a company called New York Classical, and we were doing the play. Oh gosh, it was a Marivaux play. Not Too Stiff to Conquer. Oh gosh. Anyway, and we would each scene, the audience would travel with us to another part of Central Park. So we were like all around the park. My kids were, gosh, I don't know, 4 and 6 then or something. They were very small. They came to see it. It was really fun.
Wow,
Triumph of Love. That's what it was called.
As I remember, it was a period piece.
Yeah, it was a period piece.
I've never heard of them doing that in the park. I love that idea.
Oh yeah, and now they've gone to other parts of Manhattan, and you know, hopefully they'll be able to do. I mean, it's outdoor theater, so maybe there's a way to make that work as opposed to theater inside of a building. You know? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. You were speaking of your kids. They were 4 and how old at that time?
Oh gosh, they were really young.
And now
their dad brought them. Zachary is in Denver. He's 24 with his girlfriend Shannon, and they're just a really wonderful couple. Yes, her name is Shannon. Isn't that so funny? Isn't that so funny and ironic? And she's just a really wonderful person, and I'm just so proud of them. They have a great relationship. And Matthew is 21, and he just finished up his junior year at the University of Delaware, online, of course. So 1 more year. He may be going to Barcelona if they're doing that for his fall semester. So we'll see day by day, right?
What's he studying?
Barcelona is such a great place. So much fun.
Yeah, you've been there, right?
Yeah.
Barcelona
is amazing.
What was it? When I ran with the Bulls, 1960 something.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
The good old days.
And Michael's kids are 36?
36 and 34, yeah. And my daughter, Caitlin, just had a granddaughter, my granddaughter, Frankie. And my son has 2 boys. He's in Madison, Wisconsin. He's a professor of psychology.
Great place.
Oh, wow. How old are his kids?
3 and 1. Yeah, something like that.
Wow.
Well, we're getting a lot of comments about you being everybody's favorite couple. Do you both remember your first days at World Turns?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me talk first, since I was on the show first.
There you go.
May of. Well, let me talk first anyway, right?
Ladies first.
Ladies first. Yeah.
Okay. It was 1985, and they didn't really know who my character was. They just knew that they wanted to bring on some comedy, and just really hard to do in daytime drama. So I was on a plane with Frank Dicopoulos, who played Steve.
Get out.
Right? And we were both going to.
Oh, not Frank.
I mean, not Dicopoulos. Frank.
Right.
And
I know who you're talking about. Who played Frank Runyon?
And Andrea. Oh gosh, his last name. Somebody.
Frank Runyon. Frank Runyon, who played Andropoulos.
Oh, Steve Andropoulos. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah. Frank Runyon, who played Steve Andropoulos.
Yeah. And they didn't know who Shannon really was at that time. They just knew that they wanted to have somebody for Larry Brigman to play with, and Dusty and Lily. They were on my first weeks there, but my very first day we were on an airplane, and I looked in my bag, and I was just going to Chicago, I think, from Ireland, and from the Shannon airport to the O'Hare airport. And I looked in my bag, and I discovered that my uncle, who I didn't even know it was my uncle on that day, but somebody had put something in my bag, something mysterious thing that made me divert my trip to Oakdale, which is where Steve was going. I'm like, because she was a world traveling sort of gypsy, just let the wind blow her where it goes. And so I went to Oakdale instead of going to Chicago. And I knew that I needed a new name because whatever was in my bag was very dangerous. So I made my real name was Erin Casey, but to go to Oakdale, I made my name Shannon O'Hara, from the Shannon airport to the O'Hare airport, but they added an A at the end of the name. So her real name is Erin Casey, but for everybody on the show, for the most part, knows me as Shannon O'Hara.
I know, that's so funny, because it really is never, you see Erin Casey in very, like the book, the As the World Turns book.
Yeah.
Or,
Only insiders.
you have to exactly, you have to dig for that. And
Yeah.
Michael, do you remember yours?
Well, what was fun for me was I was doing a movie in Georgia called Friday the 13th, Part 6.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I loved seeing that you were in that.
So I got a call from my agent. Well, so was Tony Goldwyn, by the way.
He's in that as well?
Yeah, he's the first guy to die. And so I got a call from my agent. You got to fly to New York when you're done there and do a screen test for As the World Turns. I didn't have an audition because I had done a screen test for Guiding Light 3 years earlier. And our executive producer at the time was producing on Guiding Light and really liked my test, but they hired a different guy anyway. So
do you remember who you were screen testing for at Guiding Light?
Bob, what was his name?
Bob Calhoun. Bob Calhoun.
No, but I mean, do you know who you were the role on Guiding Light?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I just remember.
Somebody will tell me at some point.
If I don't book them, I forget them really quick. So I just went direct to a screen test in New York, and it's back in the old days when soaps had lots of money, and they put me up in a nice suite at the Plaza, and they limoed me to the screen test. And I remember being told by Bob Calhoun later, there were 5 guys testing for Duncan. And
with me.
We tested live with Maggie. And the reason I booked the part is I kissed her at the end of the test.
That's funny, because one of our fans, Michael, was asking, he said the chemistry for the two of you truly was clear from the beginning. And he was asking if you actually screen tested together.
Yep.
Yep.
We did. So I did it with a slight Scottish burr, which was basically I did a bad imitation of Sean Connery, and
it's convincing enough.
Bob definitely.
Bob told me the reason I booked it was the accent was good, and I kissed Maggie at the end. So.
Well, it was probably apparent. I don't even remember the other guys except for this really good actor, Jeff Allen, who was also auditioning, but he had a whole different physical build than Michael. And, just
that said to me, and
like Michael and I did.
Before the test, he said to me, and Ollie looked at me, he goes, "What are you doing here?"
Jeff said that?
Blew me in. Yeah. I guess he'd seen some of my primetime work or something.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. I don't know that actor. Is he known
Oh, he's a
for
really
anything?
good actor. I don't know what his resume is, but you can look him up.
I'll
Jeff
look him up.
Allen. Yeah.
I know fans have been asking, one of them, Matthew, was asking, any special memories of working with Uncle Earl with Farley Granger?
Oh, yeah. Farley Granger, famous for the Hitchcock movie, Rope, and other wonderful films. His character ended up marrying Eileen Fulton's character, Lisa, and he was my uncle on the show. And it was just, he was such a warm, wonderful, funny film actor, but guy, and so the nicest guy in the world. And he and Bob Calhoun, our producer, were in a relationship together. I don't think they ever got married. I don't think that was legal back then. But
I love that. I don't think I knew that.
That's
great.
Yeah, and he would in film. I learned then, which I didn't know much about film then. If you goof up your line, you just keep going. You just keep. You just pick up from where you goofed, and then you just keep going. Well, on soap operas, you have to completely stop and go all the way back to the beginning of the scene. So it took him a long time to really get in the rhythm of what soap opera was and all the lines you had to memorize. You couldn't just memorize a sentence at a time and then, pick up. So that was one of the memories. But other than that, he was a really wonderful guy.
And Michael Bree was asking, was it hard to do the accent all the time, every day?
It was totally hard. I really had a hard time doing it.
It got to the point of where I was doing it off stage. I was doing it in the office. It was like when I entered the building, I started talking like this. So, it stuck with me all the time. And it was really good in real life. Meeting women, really enjoyed the accent.
Oh, I'm sure they all probably were shocked when we weren't speaking with the accent.
Yeah,
you never told me about that.
Why would I tell you about that?
Well, I hope it wasn't when we were together.
No, it certainly wasn't. I can tell you that.
Thank you.
I can tell you that it wasn't. Did I ever do it at home? The accent?
Probably when we had a couple of drinks. Yeah.
But I had been known in prime time and voiceover for being able to do accents. So
are there other accents that are easy for you? I mean, because that definitely
I have, like George C. Scott once said, got an ear. So it's easy for me to pick up accents and mimic. I do a lot of the work I do now is voice matching. Gary Oldman, his movies, and other people, because I'm a good mimic.
Awesome.
So yeah. So
wait, what does that mean? Voice matching.
So if an actor, big time actor like Gary Oldman, say, does a movie and then isn't available to loop his performance, to dub his performance, they call somebody to imitate him. Red Riding Hood, I actually added several lines that he didn't even say. And the other thing that I've been doing lately is dubbing for Netflix foreign films and television.
Wow, cool.
To match the tone of voice, obviously in English, not in. So I've done Polish and
good
Swedish.
For you.
That's amazing. I actually did not realize they did that. But
yeah,
wow.
I did it for a very famous, very popular Academy Award-winning movie. And I can't say who it is, but if she had won the Academy Award that year, I was going to be like, and I helped. The last 3 minutes when she's coming up out of the water and panting and everything, that's a little clue there. That's all me. All the.
Oh wow! Oh, great. Yeah. So that's voice matching. Yeah. Even panting.
Yeah. And still get love our union, SAG-AFTRA union. I'm still getting residuals from that. And that was 8 years ago.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Christy was asking, did they always intend, from what you know, of Shannon and Duncan to end up together, or was Duncan a roadblock for Brian?
I think they saw the chemistry between me and Maggie in real life, and Doug Marland, the head writer, famous head writer, loved to take things from his actors from real life. And
Colleen and Mark, other people. Yeah. I think that the answer to that question is yes, because he screen tested with me, so they had it in the plan all along that he would come between Shannon and Brian, Shannon and Brian.
Yeah, Brian McCall.
And Brian and Colleen's character.
Barbara.
Brian and Barbara were a couple, and they were together in real life. And I think they just wanted to kind of mess around with that too by bringing Michael on. So it all sort of got explored.
And Maggie, you started off by talking about that they wanted to bring in some comedy. Yes, exactly. Harriet. Yes. Brett was asking, talk about working with Sloan Shelton. You two, he says you two were like Lucy and Ethel.
Oh, that's so sweet. We felt like we were, but I mean, that's such such big shoes to fill. And it's a little embarrassing to call us that because, we're who we are and they're who they were. But Sloan and I were both from the theater, and Michael's done a lot of theater and Shakespeare as well, just like us. And so there was a common bond in that regard, and just the way that they wrote it. We were always doing these hijinks and everything. And I think it was because of, Doug Marland's writing and tutoring of his writers, that they were able to get that, because it's very difficult to do with a multi-camera show like that. When you shoot a soap opera, there are 3, sometimes 4 cameras out in front of you, and you don't have the time to really perfect any kind of timing. So you just have to really, do it in the moment and use the script that you got. And it was just really fun working with her, and I loved her. And she passed away 5 years ago, I think, and her memorial was at the Cherry Lane Theater, and it was just really wonderful to hear all the loving, wonderful stories about her.
Like I said, I watched both of you, and just researching this was so fun. And actually, I'd forgotten about you two, Harriet. I mean, Duncan and Shannon I have in my head, but Harriet and you was such a great reminder to go back and look. Do you have a favorite hijink with her?
Oh gosh, there were so many. I mean, Duncan brought a castle over from Scotland for me to, and rebuilt it in Oakdale. So there were all kinds of things we did with the passageways there. And one time we dressed up as maids. Pardon me?
We had ghost stories.
Oh, we had ghost stories.
Oh, you did. Yeah, you did.
But one time Harriet and Shannon dressed up as maids to do something. I don't know if it was to do something to Brian or to spy on Duncan. I can't remember what that storyline was, but it was really fun. It was a fun job. I really loved that job. Yeah.
You did, speaking of comedy, while we were doing that, you actually did a half-hour primetime guest star, didn't you?
I did a bunch. Yeah, I left. I left. Thank you, Michael. When I was doing the show, I had a week off.
Yeah, when you were doing returns, you did a half-hour comedy with. I think it was a Jason Alexander show.
It was Jason Alexander. It was called Everything's Relative, and Eli Wallach's wife was in it as well, Ann Jackson, and John Bolger, who was on Guiding Light.
Oh yeah, I love John.
I was his love interest. They only shot about 6 episodes, but it was just so wonderful because I had a week off from As the World Turns. I went and auditioned for a sitcom in New York, by the way.
What was it called?
Everything's Relative.
Oh yeah. I came to see John do it, I think.
Oh my God! Then you saw me.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, if you saw that episode, actually, a couple of the writers who wrote Friends, who I later auditioned for an early incarnation of Friends in LA, David Crane and Marty Kaufman. I'm pretty sure they were both writing on Everything's Relative. It was a great, juicy guest starring role, and Jason Alexander starred in it as well. But it only ran 3 or 4 episodes.
You did an episode of Seinfeld as well, didn't you?
Yeah, when I got out to LA, I left As the World Turns because my contract was up, and I was like, if I don't go to LA now, I'm never going to go. So I went and I actually booked 2 sitcoms the very first week I was there. One of which was the 6th episode of Seinfeld, which for some reason they put it on the 2nd season's DVD. It's called The Baby Shower. And I say everything to Jerry. I scream everything to Jerry that Jason's character George wants to say to the pregnant woman who's having a shower. Elaine is throwing a shower for her at Jerry's apartment, and so I get to say all those things to Jerry that Jason wanted to say, that George wanted to say. So that was good. And I did the Golden Girls and Empty Nest, and gosh, I don't have my resume in front of me, but
do you have a favorite? I was going to ask Michael the same thing. Do you have a favorite?
Probably the Golden Girls was really. Oh, Star Trek I did too. That's not a sitcom, but the Next Generation.
Not funny.
It
not funny. Definitely not funny.
That was the 7th season, and boy, were they ready to be done with that show. That's another story. My favorite, it would probably be Seinfeld, because it was just like this freight train, this steam engine of like vitriol of 3 years. He didn't call me for 3 years after we had a date. I just get to like scream it at him. So that was fun. But Golden Girls was really fun too.
And both of those air over and over.
Thank you again to our union, SAG-AFTRA union, because still getting residuals, still paying some groceries, with those residuals. So
I still get residuals from the only comedy I ever did, which was MASH. So
right.
I get $14.90 every quarter.
Crazy.
The very last episode of MASH ever made. The regular half-hour episode.
Oh wow! So you were in right before the finale, then?
Yeah, they filmed the finale 3 months earlier, and the very last episode was actually a regular half-hour episode called "Time After Time." The guy's buried a time capsule, and I wasn't funny. I was a helicopter pilot, but I was in a comedy, a primetime comedy.
And I was in another sitcom here in New York called Spin City with Michael J. Fox. It was before they moved it out to LA and did it with Charlie Sheen. So that was, quite an experience. He knew he had Parkinson's, but he wasn't telling anybody at that point. And he was just the nicest. He gathered everybody together before we went on stage to just say thank you and like, let's go out there and do it. And no other show I've been on has ever done that, has gathered all the crew, the cast and crew together and said, let's go make a great show. And he did that. That came from his heart. And that was fun because I was Barry Bostwick's love interest on that. Played a lot of love interests. Yeah.
I like Barry. Michael,
oh my God, I see him on auditions once in a while.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet. I could see that. Andrew was asking about playing Richard Channing, the first on Falcon Crest. What do you remember about
that? Well, I had been friends with Earl because I was doing a lot of work at Universal for Ken Johnson, and Earl was working on the Warner Brothers lot, and it was lunch stuff, and we met, and he knew that I was in the wine business. My family had been in the wine business, so he had me come in, and I auditioned. And did the pilot, but then they decided the pilot was fun because we shot it in Napa Valley. My family was around, my old employers.
Oh wow,
it was a lot of fun. And,
my home state. Yep.
That's right. Good old California. Watsonville, right? You went to Watsonville High.
Salinas High.
Oh, Salinas.
By Monterey.
Anyway, so we did the pilot, and all the guys got their pencils out, and they recast virtually the whole show, and they just got rid of my character for 2 seasons, and then they brought in David Selby to play the character. But that was fine. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
You did a lot of shows. Oh, go ahead.
You
did a lot of shows with Steve Cannell.
I did a lot of shows for Steve Cannell too. Yeah, I did almost all of Steve Cannell's.
Yeah.
Before soap opera. So here's the great story. I mentioned Tony Goldwyn earlier. While we were doing Friday the 13th Part 6, Tony and I became kind of buddies, and he one day said to me, you'd be really great in a soap opera. And I said, I will never do soap.
Right.
And the next day is when I got the call from my agent to fly to New York.
Yeah, the universe was like, oh yeah? Let's do that at the test.
Right. And he spent some time doing a primetime soap for sure. Scandal.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's completely all the time. He starred in so many movies.
Yeah.
He was the bad guy in Ghost and one of the bad guys in Kiss the Girls. And
Yeah.
he's been on that show. I don't think that show's on anymore. But what was it?
No, it's not. It's called
Scandal.
Scandal.
Yeah.
But
Scandal,
you know, people don't realize that primetime shows like that, nighttime shows, they are soap operas. They're just not all of that, and they're not denigrated with that term because they get like a whole film schedule. You know, they shoot over days and with film, and you know, it's not. We shoot a whole show. Soap operas shoot a whole 60 pages or whatever in one day. Yeah. You try it, you know, all you people that are, you know, saying, oh, soap operas, you know, it's like it's a lot of work. Amazing that anything good gets done because there's no time. There's no do-overs. You know, you get there, you learn your lines, you get on stage and do it and go home and go, oh, that's what that scene was about as you're going home. Like, oh, I wish I could do it again because now I have an idea about it. But you don't have any time. I mean,
today they do more than one in a day. Usually it's like they do parts of, you know, sometimes 5. Michael, I had to laugh, and not in a bad way. It just made me giggle. But somebody just said, when do we shamelessly talk about Michael's hunky physique?
My 72-year-old hunky physique. There will, because of the pandemic, there will be no vanity shots this week.
That's so funny. Someone else is asking if you can talk about how the scenes for Brian and Shannon's failed wedding were shot. They say it was so wacky. I don't remember that off the top of my head.
It was so what?
Wacky, they said. Do you remember?
Shannon and Brian's wedding?
Yeah, the failed wedding. Was there?
Yeah, because we had two.
Were they shooting it in a different style? Do you recall?
Oh, which one are they talking about? I was married so many times.
Well, we'll see what they say. But let's talk about Duncan and Shannon's wedding. Where was that shot? Was that actually in?
That took us hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
We were in Terrytown, New York. There's a castle, right?
I didn't think it was Scotland, but I was curious where it was.
Yeah, there's a castle up in Terrytown, New York. So that was our remote. And yeah, I can't remember the actual wedding. Can you, Michael?
Not really.
I kind of remember outside the castle.
It was outside. I watched a little Lisa with her big fluffy dog showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. You probably had a kilt on. I don't know. I don't remember my dress for that one.
It was right on the river, and it was some famous guys. Who was the guy that owned it? The house.
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. But it was a beautiful home on the river. And,
and the second time,
beautiful. Yeah,
it is beautiful. The second time that Shannon tried to marry Brian, that got disrupted because it's so convoluted. Because Duncan's daughter fell in love with Brian.
Lilith. No, not Lilith.
No. This was not Lilith. This was Ashley Crowe.
Yeah. I have it here.
So I looked in Brian's eyes and I said, you know, I can't marry you because I know you're in love with someone else. So that wedding, Beatrice, yeah. So they and then they left and went to Scotland or someplace to live, and that's what made Michael's and my character be able to be together, right? We had to go through all that stuff.
I actually stood up during that wedding, and when the preacher says,
"No, that was the very first wedding between Brian and Shannon." Yeah, okay. That was your first day of work. Was that you were in the audience of our of the chapel where Brian and Shannon were getting married, and when the officiant said, "Does anybody have anyone to say?" Yeah. He said, she's my wife. Or you can say it better than I
do. You can't marry.
Yeah. Well, I was curious. Where did Lassie come from? Was that something written, or did you?
I can do a dog. Yeah. No, Lassie's very. That's Scottish or Irish.
I'm sorry. Did you ask me a question because
I did.
Went away?
Sorry.
For a second.
Did you create using the Lassie term, or was that? Didn't you use the Lassie term?
Lassie. Oh yeah. Hello, Lassie.
Was that you, or did the writers write that?
So it was me because the night before the screen test, I had called the Scottish mission at the United Nations, and I got a guy that met me for several single malt scotches on Avenue.
Surprised you remembered anything.
Yeah. He said, you can call your girlfriend Lassie. And I said, oh, like lass. And he said, no, don't say lass, it's Lassie. I said, okay. And that's where that came from.
Oh, that's great. You even doing the research for, the screen test. I love it.
In such a short amount of time, too.
The main thing was to get all of that accent in my ear. So everything he said, I repeated what he said. So that's how I got that accent in my head.
Have you given him commission on what you made?
on our no residual soap opera show.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Do you talk about your sister and your ex-wife Beatrice and Lilith? Those stories. I mean, those were both great stories.
What?
Lilith is a rather famous Canadian actress whose name escapes me right now, of course. But I saw her. We have a farmer's market here every Sunday in Studio City, and I ran into her once there. Oh, she's going to be so mad at me. After having seen her for 30 years, and she looks exactly the same, kind of like Maggie, and she was great.
Check
and
in the mail.
the gal that played Beatrice, whose name I can't remember.
Ashley Crow.
Ashley Crow. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I saw her probably 15 years ago at a 7-Eleven, and she actually lived at that time in Sherman Oaks, and so it was nice to see her. I haven't seen her since, but
she's done some guest starring stuff too. Actually.
Has she? Yeah. Oh, that's right. I've actually seen her do some prime time stuff. But who did she fall in love with in real life? It was one of our Billy. What was his name?
Yeah.
Oh,
Billy? Oh, Ashley? Billy Shanks? Yeah, Billy Shanks. And
Casey.
Yeah.
Is that Casey?
Yeah. Casey and Beatrice were a couple. And it was in the water as the world turns. We were all
my God.
hooking up.
Seriously.
Not with everybody. There were couples that were
I mean, we could name 10 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody just said, Lilith, there's a blast from the past. Didn't she shrink Shannon's head or something?
Yes. The way that they got me off of As the World Turns the first time that I left to go to Los Angeles was they created Lilith coming to tell Duncan that she had kidnapped Shannon and that she had shrunken my head in Africa. I think it was in Africa.
It was in Africa, yeah.
And so when I was out in Los Angeles and I happened to turn the show on, I guess I was like unpacking or whatever. And I felt so bad for Michael. I was like, oh, poor Michael, because they made like this, talk about, budget and no time to do anything. They made him act with this hairy tennis ball. Oh, Shannon. Oh, my Shannon.
I had to cry.
And then there's this big lazy, they really drugged out this Black Panther to be there as well. And that was part of the scene. And I just felt so bad. But,
I'm so glad I
do have the distinction of being the only shrunken head in
I'm so
all
glad
of soap opera dump.
So
I'm so glad you said it was a tennis ball because somebody was asking. And
Yep.
Lilith,
Was it Michael? Was it?
Yeah, it was a hairy tennis ball that I had to weep over.
Thinking it was my head. Thinking it was my shrunken head.
What they will do. Sarah Botsford.
There we go.
Lilith.
Sarah.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Played such a great villainess.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was wonderful.
Oh, she really did. She really did. Maggie, is it true for you that you played Juliet in 7th grade and that's what started you down this path?
Aw, somebody read my bio on my website. Yes, I was in 7th grade. I never thought about being an actor, and then I took a drama class. I don't know why, because I didn't really do anything, before that. I played a lot of music and sang in things before 7th grade. Well, that's my Instagram that you put up there.
Yeah.
I did the balcony scene from Juliet, and
Did you ever play her later in life?
I auditioned for her and got really close here in New York, but no cigar. Never got to play her. But I did play Olivia in 12th Night twice, and Kate in Taming the Shrew twice. Once at Cornell when I was getting my Master of Fine Arts there, and
That's right.
once
I
in
forgot
college.
about that.
at the Colorado Shakespeare Festival, which was my very first professional job, and it was in Denver. So when I went to, in Boulder. So when I went to go visit my son for my birthday last November, we drove over to Boulder, and I was able to stand on that stage again. It was really intimate outdoor theater where we did Twelfth Night. We did Taming of the Shrew and All's Well That Ends Well and Julius Caesar. So that was really quite wonderful. But yes, thank you for asking. That was the beginning. My next thing was Winnie the Pooh. I'm playing Kanga in Winnie the Pooh.
And Michael, yours was improvisational theater?
My first professional job was, there was a group in San Francisco called The Committee where Robin Williams got his start. And in Palo Alto, we started a group called the Illegitimate Theater. And that was my first professional job.
For those who don't know, can you explain a little about improvisational theater?
Okay, well, ours was pure improvisation where we'd have an audience and they would throw out an idea, and then our director, Phil Schultz, would say, there were 4 of us in the cast, and he'd pick 2 or 3 or however this scene necessitated. And we'd just create out of the whole cloth a scene, hopefully funny. And,
not always. And yes,
and. But
yes,
there were a few times it became morose, and there were a few no's in there instead of yeses. Yes, and.
So yes, and there were a few no's instead of yes, ands, and what else?
That's right. Yeah. But no, we were trying to do it right now.
I'm trying to do it right now.
Then I did a movie called The Strawberry Statement in San Francisco. And then I moved to LA and was put under contract to MGM Television and got a regular recurring role on Medical Center. And that started the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Ended up doing 60 guest star roles, I think, before.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So you had mentioned Friday the 13th, but you've done MASH, Incredible Hulk, Vegas, Falcon Crest, Trafford John MD, The A-Team, T.J. Hooker, Simon and Simon. Do you have a favorite? And all of those, I grew up. Those are all from my childhood.
I think my favorite is probably. I did a series with Susan Anton called Cliffhangers, which only lasted 12 episodes. Tom Selleck is a friend of mine, and I kid him occasionally when we see each other that I had a series at Universal with a mustache before he did. And his response to that, of course, is, yeah, but mine lasted 5 years. Yours lasted once. Yeah. So I still get residuals from virtually all those shows. Sometimes they are actually 0 cents. Sometimes they're 1 cent. There's a bar over here across the street called Residuals. And if you have a residual under $1, you can take it in there, sign it off to them, and they'll give you a free drink.
Is that I assume the person who owns that is a former actor? Or?
Actually, the guy that originated it isn't around anymore. So it's been sold a couple of times, but they've kept the name and it's an Irish guy that owns it now. And the process where you turn in your.
So clever.
It's in LA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense too, but yes.
Fortunately, right across the street from me. So it's very convenient.
So fans would also kill me if I don't bring up your relationship with Jessica Griffin, Tamara Tooney.
That was a grand experiment for Douglas to delve into the racist
interracial
idea. Yeah, because they tried it on All My Children with Peter Bergman. Who's been on Young and the Restless for 1,000 years.
He played Cliff. He played Cliff on Cliff.
Originated, I'm not a real doctor, but I play one on TV.
Yeah, that was his commercial. Everybody, Did everybody know that? That was Peter Bergman's commercial. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
Yeah.
When he was doing All My Children. Yeah.
He played Cliff, I think, Dr. Cliff something.
Right. So they tried it over there, and it didn't go over well. And so Doug said, "What the hell? I'm going to give it a try," and we did. And Tamara and I had good chemistry, and the stories were very poignant. And I think we had the first interracial child on network television. who later quickly grew in about 5 years from
Soros.
Yeah.
What do they call it?
20
Soros.
Soros, yeah, soap opera rapid aging syndrome.
Aging syndrome,
Yep.
yeah. But
Yep.
Tomorrow was wonderful, and I loved working with her.
And you got to come back and work with your older daughter, Napiera, right? Napiera Groves.
I came back for 5 or 6 episodes, and when
she
they
was
had
in
moved,
her 20s.
they had moved the studio all the way out to Brooklyn, some way out place. It took an hour to get from took an hour to get to from Manhattan, and they said, we're going to do a story in Scotland, and so we might bring you back, but they didn't. So it was fine.
And when I came back to the show,
in '94, right?
Yeah, my head intact. It had not been.
Not a tennis ball. Not a
my
tennis
hair was
ball.
really long. Their characters had gotten married, but legally, our characters were still married. So that's where the conflict was with that. But Doug Marland had died while I was in Los Angeles. So I was on the show. I went to Los Angeles, came back in Los Angeles for 2 years. And I came back to the show. And the writers did not really know how to write my character because they didn't really know who I was. And there was no more comedy. I was just this home wrecking biatch, and then the O.J. Simpson show started reality TV. Watching that white Bronco go down the highway was cost no money at all. Our flower budget on our show was more than watching that Bronco go down the highway. Yeah. I'm talking about O.J. Simpson and his wife and
you're right. That is
killed. No, it did.
That was the beginning of reality TV.
It was the demise. Yeah.
Soap opera.
We've mentioned his name a few times, but talk about. Did you both have a relationship with Douglas?
Yeah, I mean, as much as you could with your Uber boss. He actually, my favorite Douglas story is he put a patch on Duncan's eye at one point, which I hated so much that I kept complaining about it. And I said, listen, please get rid of the patch. I'll buy you a bottle of Dom Perignon.
That did it?
It's a deal. It's a deal. I did.
Well, he definitely liked the alcohol more than he liked the patch then.
Correct. Exactly.
So, young actors, if you want to get something that you want on your TV show.
Yeah, there you go.
Always give
There you go. That's so funny. Maggie, talk about Ms. Eileen. Fans always ask about her.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was really wonderful because she became my aunt by marrying Farley Granger's character. And, she's everything that you see there on screen. She's just the sweetest, kookiest, very dedicated actor, and singer. She always had those nightclub reviews.
Nightclub gigs, yeah.
Which I just marveled at because, she'd be busy working and then putting all this together as well. It was fun to work with her. I don't know. Is there anything specific anybody would want to know about that?
No, they were about working with her. They were asking about. Yeah. They were asking about that. Is there anybody at World Terms that you both would have loved to have worked with, but didn't have the opportunity to?
Well, they tried to put me together, Shannon, together with Tom Hughes. So we did a couple episodes where they were kind of trying to see if we had chemistry or not, and that just never went anywhere. And Hillary Bailey.
Was that Greg at the time?
That was Scott at the time. Greg was Tom when I first got on the show, and then Scott. I don't know why Tom and Margot weren't together, but they weren't. Oh, I guess maybe that's when she was. Who was she with then?
She slept with Hal. She slept with Hal.
So Hillary, when Hillary was playing Margot, that's when we were really good friends. Yeah. So when I came back to the show, Ellen Dolan was playing Margot. Because
we just discovered that Margot and Tom are the longest running soap opera couple that have remained together of any couple.
Amazing.
You both worked with Anthony Herrera. Fans were asking about him, and the gentleman who played Tonio, was that Peter?
Peter Reyes, yeah.
Peter Reyes. Do you have any memories of working with Anthony? And I mean, I know both of you.
Michael worked with him more than I did.
I was working with Anthony at the Theatricum Botanicum, where I did Tammy of the Shrew for 7 seasons. And Anthony was going to play Petruchio. And then he got the call to come to do, what was
Well
it?
turned.
Yeah.
James Stenbeck.
James Stenbeck. And he gave me his car. It was an old 52 Buick. He said, take care of my car. I'm going to New York. And I said, okay. And one day I woke up and somebody had stolen the car. And I somehow tried to get in touch with Anthony, but I couldn't. The show wouldn't let me through. I left a bunch of messages. He never called me back. And here it is years later, 86, when I came to the show. And the first thing I said to Anthony is, somebody stole your car, man. At that point, he didn't care because he was making so much money. He wasn't.
And he was in New York. Yeah. 52
Buick. Yeah, and he was in New York. But he was a great guy. We used to go out and have a few beers together and commiserate. He was a true character and a force of nature.
It's interesting. I mean, like Maggie, you just said Ms. Eileen. She was really a character as well. He was a character.
Yeah. And they really loved what they did. You know, they really loved their jobs. I mean, I can't really speak for
Anthony, but you could tell.
Yeah,
you could tell.
Like
Anthony,
her life, you know.
Before a scene, Anthony, to warm up for the scene, would jump up and down for about 2 minutes.
I just heard that because Colleen shared that on one of these. It used to drive her crazy, she said. She'd be like, stop. Yeah, he'd be bouncing up and down.
There's another one that looks exactly like she did 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I think Colleen is one of the most beautiful women in the entire universe. Really and she looks so much like Natalie Wood. I always wanted her to play Natalie Wood in some kind of movie, you know.
Yeah, I went up to see her do Tallulah Bankhead. What's the town off the river there that has the theater?
New Hope?
Hudson.
No. Hudson.
New Hope? Or
no.
Croton on Hudson.
Was it Croton on Hudson? Yeah, I went up there to see her. And then we went out and had a few drinks and listened to some jazz together while I was in New York. And we had a great time. She's a really intelligent, terrific woman. Yeah.
She did that in New York, too. I'm pretty sure. Off Broadway.
Pretty
sure she did Tallulah.
She played for a while, I think. I think she did for a while.
Yeah.
Did she? Because what's her name originated it in New York from Mary Tyler Moore show.
Did you have fun working with Colleen and with Melanie Smith, who played Emily at the time, Michael?
Oh, Melanie. Yeah, Melanie and Colleen. I mean, both gorgeous women. Melanie now has had a yoga studio in New Hope, Pennsylvania. And I think she's still running that. But God, talk about a character. I mean, Melanie's just like, tell it like it is. You know, she's just so down to earth and very funny, incredibly funny. You know, and she would get called to like do more TV shows and everything, but she would turn things down because she was happy doing the yoga studio and they weren't really, you know, on her vibe, as it were. And Colleen, you know, even though Shannon and Barbara were, you know, at loggerheads together, we became friends after the show more than we were on the show.
Didn't Shannon once shove her head in a toilet?
I know. Neither one of us wanted to do that, you know. And luckily it was off camera and the big flush, you know.
Flush, yeah.
I thought that was a little cheap. But
well, because Duncan had flings with both of them, right? Michael, you worked with.
I'll tell you a funny Colleen story. My first week, one of the episodes of my first week, Colleen and I had to kiss. And I went in for the kiss, and just before my mouth got to hers, she went, "No tongue."
Yeah, when I was first doing the scenes with Brian, when Shannon and Brian were first doing their scenes, Colleen and Mark, the people playing those characters, were just getting together as a couple or had just gotten together. And so she would come down to the studio to watch our love scenes in particular. I don't think she'd get happy that, you know, that I was doing those love scenes with him. instead of her, it's difficult. I mean, who would want to watch that?
Yeah, nobody wants to watch.
Want to be in that situation.
It's funny, I didn't see one of the fans had actually commented about flushing Barbara's head in the toilet before I didn't get to see it. Michael, somebody was. Yeah, go ahead, Maggie.
No, I was just going to say, when Michael and I were together as a couple in real life, it was great when we were, together as Shannon and Duncan. But then when we broke up, we actually broke up right when we were getting married. Right when Shannon and Duncan were getting married, we weren't together.
That's always a good time. That's always a good time.
Yeah, we're professional. We, and we knew what that was to be Shannon and Duncan together. We still had that in our hearts and for each other. There was no animosity, but it was just funny that that's what happened in real life.
How it timed out
on the show. But it's very difficult, to you have to have a really loving, open partner that knows how to stand on their own and have their own self-esteem to be a partner of somebody who's an actor and going to be in those kinds of scenes.
No
it's very difficult unless you choose to not make it difficult, and the partner just has to make it not difficult for them, or the relationship's not going to work. So that's a whole other topic.
So that's a whole, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to another actress, and we were talking about the possibility of doing a show with two actors who met on a show together. Would be interesting.
Yeah.
Michael, fans were asking about your role on Bold and the Beautiful as Adam and working with Darlene Conley. What do you remember about that experience?
Talking about a force of nature.
Yeah, seriously.
Darlene was a marvelous, marveless person and a wonderful friend. And she used to call, because she was such a mugger, but I'd say, Darlene, you're mugging. You're mugging. She said, it's called face acting.
Yeah, mugging.
Did you say so? But she was so much fun and such a good friend in real life. And she used to take me to the big concerts at
Hollywood Bowl.
The big outdoor auditorium.
The Hollywood Bowl.
Hollywood Bowl. Thank you. Jeez. Yep. 72. Anyway, so she had season tickets there, and she always used to take me there. And she would play tricks on me. Like once, she knew what a huge Sinatra, Tony Bennett fan I was, and one day she said, "Listen, you're coming to the bowl with me. We're going to see Diane, whose name I can't remember either. The piano player, singer, the blonde.
Diana Krall. Diana Krall.
Yeah, she said Diana Krall's playing at the bowl. Well, we got to the bowl, and she had box seats, and so we'd always bring a picnic and a couple of bottles of wine. And sure enough, there was Diana Krall opening for Tony Bennett. So that was like, what a treat! She would do things like that all the time, little tricks, and play little tricks on me. But we had a great time working together. But the audience, for some reason, wasn't thrilled about her having this good-looking husband, younger thing.
You don't have to put that in quotes. Well, we all know you're good-looking, and we know that your grandmother asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, and you said handsome.
You were
I love that.
I don't mean to interrupt your story. Go ahead.
I told you that story. Anyway, so we were great friends, and unfortunately, she passed away about 10 years ago.
She, like the two of you, also is a big episodic lady. I remember her from a lot of Charlie's Angels, a lot of things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And she was actually in The Birds.
Wow.
Birds. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. She was a very special person, and like Anthony Herrera, a force of nature. And so she used to do a thing where she would walk the halls where the dressing rooms were, and she would hum in a monotone. And so I tease her about that, and she'd slap me and hit me and say, "Oh, shut up." She was great.
I could say something, but I won't.
Yeah.
Good.
Wait, I can't recall. Did we might have changed subjects. Did you say, was there anybody at World Turns that you would have liked to have acted with? I thought I asked, but both of you. I don't remember.
Because I liked Ellen Dolan so much in real life. She's really a terrific person. and Colleen. I wish I had more stuff to do with Colleen.
Maggie, you did answer, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but they also tried to put Ben's character. What was Ben's character's name? Hal. Yeah, Hal and Shannon together. We were sort of good friends, and but we never got to work that much together. And one of the times that we did get to work together, those two characters got together. The person who was standing in for him did the role. So I didn't really get to act with Ben as much as I'd like to. We were both in the acting company. My first professional job after the Colorado Shakespeare Festival was the acting company, which was a company that John Houseman put together of the Juilliard actors, Kevin Kline and Patti LuPone and David Ogden Stiers. When they were graduating from Juilliard, John Houseman, the teacher, said, he's a director and actor as well, but he was in charge of the Juilliard Theater. So I have to keep these people together. So he created the acting company, and I was the first non-Juilliard person to be in that company in its 12th year. Yeah, and we traveled around the country doing classical theater. That was one of the times I did Olivia in Twelfth Night.
I actually saw Ben way before As the World Turns do The Kitchen.
Oh yeah,
at UCLA.
Yeah,
and marvelous company.
Yeah.
Such a good actor. I loved him. He was a good guy. Maggie, talk about your sitcom and drama coach.
Okay, so I coach people online now, of course, and I've taught. I used to teach soap opera as well, but I teach multi-camera sitcom and comedy, which can range from just like really, very subtle human kind of humor to broad, three-camera, multi-camera sitcom like, Friends and, those kinds of shows. So I put together my business called Your Sitcom and Drama Coach, and I coach actors for auditions, for self-tape auditions, monologues, anything that they might need. But I also really understand a lot more about comedy. Kind of did comedy my whole life, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. So one time when I went to get coaching for an audition, a comedic audition, I was like, he didn't really have any kind of technique to really help me with it. So that's when I started doing a lot of research with Mary Lou Belli's book, the Sitcom Career Book. And I created an ebook that if anybody wants a free version of that ebook, you can go to my website, which is you already put up there. And it's called the 6 Comedy Clues, 6 Comedy Script Clues, this ebook. And it talks about, like callbacks and patterns of 3 and all these things that you see in comedy, but it's really great to do. My coaching is really based on script analysis. Because you got to know what the script is saying and what the writer wants you to, be doing before you can actually get up on your feet. So
were you doing it online before the quarantine?
Yeah, I was doing it online before, and I was actually teaching in person with 2 cameras in a studio. But of course, we can't do that right now. So it's really worked out. I like doing it online, and people, get just as much value out of it as doing it in person. So.
I did one of these. Do you know the actor Peter Francis James?
Peter was on our show. That's how I know him.
Yeah, we're right. You're correct.
Yeah.
Sorry, because he did it for Guiding Light.
And he's a good teacher as well.
He was teaching a directing class at I think Juilliard, and they had to do. It might be 12th Night, and they were supposed to do a performance, but then the quarantine happened, and then they did it on Zoom, where somebody actually created the set for the background.
Wow.
And they were able to like.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it sounded amazing. I didn't see it, but the way he described it, it just sounded.
Was it recorded? Like, is it on his website or YouTube or something?
I don't know. I'll try and find out for you. Yeah,
he was Jessica. He played Jessica.
Yeah,
love interest.
Trying to think of his name as well. Not Brian.
His character's name.
It might have been like a B as well.
Yeah.
Have either of you taken up something during this?
I'm doing so much home improvement. I'm redoing the shelving in my kitchen. I'm doing it myself. I've started a vegetable garden, just reorganizing, getting all things prepared for if I kick the bucket and stuff. So it'll be easier for my kids.
I was right. Blake with a B. It was Blake Stevens.
Oh, Blake.
Blake Stevens.
That's right.
Thank you for answering.
Yeah, and I'm really proud that my sisters and I have 3 older sisters. They all still live in California, in various parts of California. We have been doing a Zoom call every Monday for 8 or so weeks now, and it's really great because we're like getting to know each other in different ways. So it's kind of a positive out of all the tragedy that's happening in our world right now.
Connecting everybody.
Yeah.
And Michael, what have you been occupying your time?
Oh, well, you know, here in California, all the gyms are shut down. So that's my hobby. That's what I do. And so I've been slowly creating a home gym. You know, I've got some benches and some free weights. And
you work out?
Wise guy.
Everybody look up his Playgirl.
Oh, please.
He's on the cover.
Oh, I should have held that up.
By accident, mentioned Frank Dicopoulos, who
he was on Playgirl.
He was on Playgirl's cover too. Yeah, before me. So
that's so funny. Darn, I wish I had known. I would have had that one. Before I let you go, I mean, you worked with so many great people at As the World Turns. Anybody stand out? I mean, Julianne Moore, Lauryn Hill. God, I mean, Steven Weber probably, right?
Oh, yeah, Steven. Yeah, Steven and I have been talking on Twitter. I'm so happy for him that and Bill Fichtner. They're both on Mom. And now Steven Weber has his new show with Fran Drescher. What's it called? Indebted? What's it called?
I've been dying to watch that, but I haven't. Have you seen it? So
that was really great. Yeah, that I would have loved to have worked with him more. And I had a few scenes with Julianne. One thing I remember from Julianne is that it was snowing one night, and I lived in White Plains at the time, White Plains, New York. We were on As the World Turns, and it was snowing. I couldn't get home. And so she let me stay in her and John Rubin's apartment that night. It was she was just really generous and warm. And, you know, when you see her in interviews, that's exactly who she is and how she is, just very down to earth and quite creative, of course.
Well, thank you both so much for doing this.
You're welcome. It was
so fun.
Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you, Lassie.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do that.
That's called a callback in comedy.
I'm glad you did that because fans were asking to hear the accent one more time. So, well, thank you both. Stay well, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, great job, Alan. It's really terrific that you're doing these. They're really great.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Stay backstage for a minute. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll see you on Wednesday with another Guiding Light show. Bye-bye.